On this episode of Planet Podcast, we take a closer look at student loans and debt and how they are playing a role in our economy. Live from the Hastings College Gray Center Studios, this is Planet Podcast. Welcome to Planet Podcast. I'm Alan Hamill.
I'm Christopher Genovese.
And I'm Zach Lena. And to start things off today, as college students ourselves, we have seen firsthand how much it costs to go to college and how much of a lasting impact student loans can have on our lives in trying to pay off that debt. So we kind of wanted to just go over briefly, our experiences with college debt and having loans. And me personally, I originally came to Hastings College on a basketball scholarship. And, back when I was a freshman, I didn't really think about how much it was going to cost. I had a rough idea in mind, but, it wasn't really as important to me as it is now. But I've been here 5 years, and it's been about, roughly what I was guessing it was going to be. But I would definitely say, I'm glad I came here and had a great experience. Pass it off to Alan now.
Yeah, I came here, I'm a junior now, broadcasting major, and for me, my first year of college was probably a little bit less expensive. I had a lot of private scholarships coming in, but over the past couple years, the price of college has increased with some of those one-year scholarships going away, and luckily I have a relative that's helping me out pay off for college, but eventually I'm going to have to pay this relative back, so it's always lurking in the back of my mind as well.
Yeah, I'm a sophomore as well, and I came as on a football scholarship as well, and freshman year is definitely a lot harder than it is now. I actually, going into my sophomore year, I actually got more money than I did my freshman year, and it's helped a lot. Even that little amount, just pushes you, above that struggling point, and it's not so much more that I'm not gonna have to worry about it, but it definitely does help, and I haven't really planned on how I'm gonna pay for it, but I kind of do have a little better idea of what I'm gonna do, and how it's gonna affect me definitely once I graduate, and even as I'm still in school, because you still want to save up for that little bit that you're gonna have to start paying once you get out of college. And along with our experiences, we also decided to reach out to some other students who can hopefully shed even more light on this issue. And on this episode, we'll hear from a couple college students as well as the financial aid department to see how students can better handle their student debt. And in our first segment, we spoke with a freshman who is uncertain on how he is going to handle his student debt after college.
This is Christopher Genovese. I have here with me Tyler, an underclassman at Hastings College. Tyler, we are on the topic of high student loan debt. And we chose you to be a part of this podcast so that we could get an idea of how an underclassman looks at this topic compared to, a senior, someone, more down the line in the college career. All right, Tyler, I'm going to start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, like your name, where you're from, your major, and the reason you came to Hastings College.
I'm Tyler from San Diego, California. Mainly picked Hastings College for football, and got a couple scholarships here, so it was pretty cost-worthy.
Okay, and are you the first person to go to college in your family?
No, my dad actually attended a business college where he earned his degree.
Okay, and not being the first one in your family to go to college, did your dad ever give you any advice about how you should pay for school, or stuff about loans, how you should pay them off, or even if you should get any loans? Did they give you any advice about that stuff?
The main thing he stressed to me was get school over with. That way you can pay your loans as fast as possible and make sure the interest rate and all that is an average rate, not too high, not too low, but that it's reasonable to where I could pay it off and not be in debt the entirety of my career.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you have any plans right now set for paying your tuition or your loans?
Not really. My main thing is just trying to get a decent job to where I don't struggle with paying those loans and get in debt.
Okay. Do you plan on paying your loans, or your school tuition while you are attending school, or have you not thought about that now and you're just saving that till after you graduate?
Right now I'm kind of saving till after I graduate because grad school's kind of on my mind, so I'm thinking maybe possibly pay for it during then or even after when I hopefully get a good job.
Okay, and when looking for a school, you said football was a big factor, but how did loans and the amount of loans you're going to need to take out and the amount of tuition you need to pay for the school, how did that affect your decision of coming here?
It affected it a lot just because with scholarships that reduced my payment, and then with the loans that they gave me, that helped out a lot. So Hastings did a good job of explaining what I'd pay for and what I wouldn't have to pay for in their loans, and it made a big part of college is a big investment. So the less amount of money you have to pay is better for the student.
Okay, and would you actually attend a cheaper school? You said you were from California. Would you go back there and attend a much cheaper school? I'm sure you could find one over there. Instead of coming here and knowing, you've been here for a little while, you know how much it is and how much it's going to cost you in the long run. Would that affect your decision at all?
It might a little bit. It also depends on the academics of the school and the prestige and what goes along with all the schools, and just seeing how their academics compare to Hastings. And there's a lot of factors, but I'd definitely consider it with a cheaper education back home.
All right. And I know you did say you were planning on going to graduate school, but, nowadays a bachelor's degree isn't worth as much as it used to be. And, did this ever affect your decision about, maybe even starting college or now finishing it, instead of just dropping out and saving the time and the money?
Well, I know in my field with the secondary education, you get actually more benefits and more salary if you go to a graduate school. So that was always a plus for me. And one thing of advice my dad told me was get school over with. And with that said, I could go to graduate school and get more money than I would just using my bachelor's degree out of Hastings.
Okay, and now for a little friendly advice. So knowing how much school actually costs and how much of a pain it is, to find all the funds and the money for it, how do you think other people should plan for the price of college?
Definitely do your research. Definitely find as many scholarships as you can, and different loans too, because with those different scholarships and loans, they come along with different benefits. And there's definitely shopping around for colleges. You can definitely find the right one for you at a right price. Just you got to search for it and do the research and put in a little effort for that extra free cash, free education.
All right, Tyler. Well, thank you for being on this episode of Our Planet Money. We appreciate having you on. Thank you again.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, after having heard how a freshman plans on handling his debt, we wanted to get a different perspective. We wanted to get a perspective from a graduating senior who is closer to the realization that student debt is lurking right around the corner. All right, listeners, this is Zach Lena on Planet Podcast. We'd like to thank my fellow student at Hastings College, Ross Eaton. Ross, let me just say the reason we chose you today to join us on the podcast is you are a senior this year. So you're essentially 4 years closer to graduating than a freshman. And what we want to talk about is the topic of rising student loan debt. And we want to see how it compares from a senior to a freshman's point of view. Obviously, you're going to have more knowledge about your actual total student loan debt amount than, say, a freshman would. And you're probably going to have more knowledge about how you plan to pay it off in the future. So with that, why don't you just give us a little background information so our listeners can get to know you?
My name is Ross Sanders Eaton. I was born in Denver, Colorado. I'm a senior. My major is criminal justice and sociology, and the reason for attending Hastings College was for basketball.
All right, thanks, Ross. So, like you said, your main reason for attending Hastings College was, I'm assuming you had the basketball scholarship. So with that, will you be the first person in your family to graduate college, or does your family kind of have a history of most of them attending college?
My mom went to University in Northern. My dad went to UNI. My mom went to UNC, and my dad got a construction management degree, and my mom got a teaching degree.
Okay, so the fact that both of your parents went to college, do you think that influenced your decision to attend college, as well as like the ability to play basketball on a basketball scholarship?
They didn't care where I was going to college. I think they just cared that I was going to college and getting a degree.
Okay, so it does sound like definitely pressure from your parents did encourage you to go to college as well as a basketball scholarship. So along with that, did the fact that you knew you would have student loans after graduating college affect your decision to attend college? Maybe, when you were a senior in high school, did you factor this into your decision as opposed to maybe going directly into the labor force and working?
No, because my parents expressed the importance of college and getting the degree. And I just could tell it was important. And my mom always said that she would help me with my student loans because her dad helped her with hers,
So the fact that you knew you'd had student loans didn't really affect your decision to go to college. You knew that it would pay off in the end.
Yeah, well, having a basketball scholarship for a couple of years really helped me out here. Without that, I probably wouldn't have came here.
Okay, cool. So now you're a senior on the way out. You've been at Hastings College the past 5 years because this is your fifth year because you ended up changing majors. But do you have any regrets having gone to Hastings College? Now that you know how much student loans you have, say, compared to if you could start over, go to a school in Colorado, which might possibly have a lower student loan debt if you'd stayed back in Colorado?
Sometimes I think about that, but I just rate the experience and friendships and stuff that I've gained from here, and I know I made the right decision, regardless of the debt that I'm going to be in.
Okay, another question is, now that you know your student loan debt, do you have like a specific plan on how you're going to handle your current debt after you get a job after college, or maybe what your plans would be as far as paying it off? How soon?
Yeah, I have a pretty good idea. I'm going to try and pay it off in bulk as often as I can, right on time, and just try and get it done as fast as possible. Probably be 10 years.
Okay, cool. So again, kind of now that you're a senior about to graduate, looking back, knowing that a bachelor degree today doesn't get you what it used to, say, 20, 30 years ago, do you still anticipate your investment in college being worth it and paying off, say, in a future date?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. That education will go a long way, and I'll be one step ahead of everyone with job choices. Being a police officer, if they really want you to have that degree, it's very important.
Yeah, I definitely say having the degree is going to set you above someone who wouldn't have a degree. So this is just one final question / statistic I found online. It said average debt levels for all graduating seniors with student loans rose to $29,400 in 2012, which is a 25% increase from $23,450 in 2008. So in just 4 years, the average debt level has increased by 25%. If this trend is to continue into the future, do you think this is going to affect maybe your decision on sending your kids to college, or what another alternative might be in the future if it keeps rising?
I think it will make me think more about having children, maybe not having 3 or 4, maybe 1 or 2, because of how expensive it is and whatnot.
All right, cool. Well, that's all we have for you today. Ross, we wanted to thank you again for joining us on Planet Podcasts. And this is Zach Lena signing out.
And finally today, after hearing our own perspectives and the perspectives of a couple other students, we wanted to hear from the experts on how to better manage student loan debt. I was able to talk with Angie Pinkerman, Assistant Director of Financial Aid at Hastings College, about student loans.
Through the Department of Ed, they have student loans for the amounts for the freshman through senior year are different. We'll start out with freshman. Your freshman year, you would be eligible, if you completed the FAFSA, you would be eligible to receive $5,500 in student loans. Depending on your FAFSA results, $3,500 of that could be subsidized, and that is where the government pays the interest while you're in school. $2,000 of it would be unsubsidized, which the student would be responsible to pay the interest. So once again, $3,500 subsidized, $2,000 unsub. When you get to be a sophomore, you would be eligible for $4,500 subsidized and $2,000 unsubsidized. Then your junior and senior year, you would be eligible for $5,500, at maximum $5,500 subsidized and $2,000 unsubsidized. So your freshman and sophomore year, it goes up by $1,000, and your junior and senior, it does stay the same.
What are some ways besides the FAFSA that students can obtain loans, rather than through the government?
Rather than through the government, this is usually something that we talk about. The very last thing that we talk about would be private student loans. Really would encourage our students to look at what the government programs have to offer for the student themselves. The second thing is the government has a program that the parent of the student can go out and get a student loan. So that would be the next best thing. Then after that would be a private student loan. The student goes out and gets the loan in their name, but they do have to have a qualified cosigner for it. The interest rate is generally higher and the repayment terms are shorter. And so we try to look at all those other options before we go to that private student loan.
You talked about the repayment plan. What is the typical duration of repaying a student loan?
On a student loan through the Department of Education, that would be from 10 years to 30 years is the length of time that they would have. Now through a private loan, that would be more in the 10-year range. So it's a much shorter period of time. There are a number of different repayment plans that the Department of Ed offers. And so it just depends on what your situation is, how much you're earning at your job, if you have other family members to take care of. But there are, like I said, a number of payment plans, and they want to get you in the best one that works for you.
Student loans are kind of a hot topic. You hear about student debt quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What are some ways that students can manage some of that debt so they don't get in, over their heads?
One thing that I would strongly recommend is each year that you get your award letter, look at the amount of scholarships and grants that you're receiving and look at the amount of student loans that you're being offered. When it comes to the loans, do you really need to take out all that is being offered? Just because they're offered doesn't mean that you have to take them, because they are earning interest and you are going to have to pay them back. So that's something that I think students really need to look at is it possible that I could work a summer job and bring in an extra $500 or an extra $1,000 in the summertime so I wouldn't have to take that extra in loans? Or we have a number of outside scholarships that you can look into, that would be something that we would strongly encourage our students to do, is look at those outside scholarships, because that would just be the same as working some hours in the summer. Usually quite often when you're a freshman, you might have a number of scholarships from your community or your church, different organizations, but then when you get to be sophomores, juniors, and seniors, it gets harder. And so that's why we would encourage you to look at scholarships from outside of Hastings College that could maybe help pay that extra.
According to the Tax Policy Center at the Brookings Institution, as of 2013, outstanding student loan balances in the U.S. exceeds $1.2 trillion, more than any other type of household debt, with the exception of mortgages.
So since we're talking about economics, we probably wanted to look at supply and demand. On the demand side, according to the Tax Policy Center for the Brookings Institute, there has been an increase in outstanding student loan debt over the past decade. It can be attributed to a combination of several factors, actually, why there has been such a drastic increase. The first is an increase in college enrollment, which actually rose by 27% from 2002 to 2011 in a 9-year span. And the second is an obvious increase in college costs. So taken together, the combination of 27% higher enrollment and 16% higher costs can explain at least 3/5 of the 77% increase in aggregate loan volume from 2002 to 2011.
So, from what we have seen, many students have little understanding on student loans and debt. However, the resources and help are available to the students, so don't be afraid to seek out the help and the understanding from those who know the ins and the outs of this financial topic. For this episode, this has been Christopher Genovese,
Zach Lena,
And Alan Hamill, thank you for tuning in to Planet Podcast.